Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you back. Sorry for the technical difficulty. Hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show, and something we haven't gotten to today, and something I haven't heard the White House or the State Department weigh in on yet, but I'm sure we will, is the fact that an Egyptian court has sentenced former President Morsi and a slew of others who used to belong to the Muslim Brotherhood to death. Now, the State Department and the White House have previously said that Morsi deserves a fair trial, blah, 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 because the Obama administration is more concerned with the former head of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, who was thrown out of power because he was abusing that power and trying to turn Egypt into an Islamic state, than he is with Christians who were slaughtered, Jews who were killed in terrorist attacks, or police officers who were killed here in the United States. Those are his priorities, or should I say, that is his priority. Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood. Look what happened in Libya, and I can't wait for the first person to ask Hillary, knowing what you know now, would you have dethroned and deposed Gaddafi in Libya? Because look at the mess Libya has become. All right, all that aside, when George W. Bush speaks, and it's not all that often, I smile and I hearken and I say, oh God, I wish we could go back to those days. A man who loved the country, a man who did what he thought was best for the country, whether he made the right decision or the wrong decision, he made it from his heart and with his faith. Not because he had a chip on his shoulder and didn't like the history of this country. I want you to watch George W. Bush at a commencement address. Here it is.
Today, we know if the president had known that there were no weapons of mass destruction at the time, you still would have had to deal with Saddam Hussein, but the process would have been different. I doubt very seriously.
All right, that wasn't the one, folks. Here it is. All right, you know what?
I haven't given a commencement speech since leaving office. You know, my decision is quite practical. So I got a phone call from my landlord, Gerald Turner. Rather than raising the rent or threatening to hold our security deposit, I was relieved to hear President Turner ask if I believed in free speech. I said, yeah. He said, perfect. Here's your chance to give one.
And one more quickie. Watch this.
Those of you who are graduating this afternoon with high honors, awards, and distinctions, I say well done. And as I like to tell the C students, you too can be president.
All right, I love it, I love it. All right, joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is Carl Higbie, U.S. Navy SEAL, former SEAL, of course, retired author of Battle on the Homefront. Great to see you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so a couple of issues that we're talking about here. Let's focus on Rubio. You saw that play by mistake a few minutes ago. Rubio was hammered by Chris Wallace. Right. And, of course, Jeb Bush was hammered because he gave a wrong answer and gave 3 answers to the same question. But I thought Rubio eventually handled it well and said that had the CIA not said there were weapons of mass destruction, we wouldn't have gone in. But it wasn't a mistake to go in because, you know, would you have wanted Saddam Hussein in power now? So what do you think the Republican candidates have to do to handle this correctly? And what's your opinion as a former SEAL?
Well, I think we have to look at the initial fact that we put Saddam there. Now, whether he should have stayed in or not, he was a murderous dictator. But at the end of the day, we did put him there. So it's like, we're going to try to choose these leaders, the same thing we chose with Egypt and things like that. It always turns out badly. But then again, if we let these areas or these regions go unchecked by us, by our resources, then you get ISIS. I mean, that's what's happening now. So personally, even knowing now that there was no weapons of mass destruction there, I still would have gone in because you have to stabilize the region. I just would have stayed there a little bit longer.
Okay, now Ramadi. I mean, when you were in Ramadi.
Yep. Okay.
And when you see now that, I mean, ISIS has taken over. The last week at this time, I was saying they have the government complexes and the black flag is flying over. Now they have Ramadi. Yep. I mean, how is that even possible when the United States of America is involved? And couldn't we have done something to stop it if we wanted to?
Right. Well, here's the thing: like President Bush said, if we had left some residual troops there, this might not have been an issue. Now, the President Obama keeps saying that we have, we're defeating ISIS, we have it on the run, we just killed that guy in Syria. Yeah. thanks to spec war. But the fact of the matter is we can't continue to give one city away back to ISIS for every one leader we kill. It's not a fair trade. It's not working out in our favor.
No, not at all.
So Ramadi's a key line. It's on a supply line. It's right on the main drag there. It's a central point of resources for the entire country.
A lot of oil involved there.
A lot of oil involved there. A lot of oil passes through there. I mean, it's on the main drag, and it has all the government resources that we built up there that were sustaining our presence there. So now they're going to use those resources to sustain their own presence. So
it wasn't that long ago that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said that, you know, Ramadi doesn't matter, and then Debbie Lee, who you know, Mark Allen Lee, her son was the first SEAL killed in Ramadi, and she wrote a letter and he responded apologizing, said didn't mean it that way. But that seems to be the mindset of this administration.
You're talking about Dempsey.
Talking about Dempsey, the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
I don't hold Dempsey in very high regards for a lot of comments he's made.
Yeah, well, and that was one of them. But my bigger question is, once we saw, for instance, and militarily speaking, once we saw that ISIS was taking over I think they have no air defenses. So and I know you can't win by bombing, but shouldn't we have bombed the heck out of those government buildings once we saw the flag flying over it? Can't we be bombing convoys every single day of ISIS convoys that are rolling into these cities? Why are we doing what seems to me like nothing?
We could, but as I was there when we were pulling out, part of the issue is that we were giving these compounds over to the Iraqi forces, which are, you know, some of those are ISIS allegiances now, and they're taking them over. So the whole point was for us to take our infrastructure and make it their infrastructure. We did it with power plants, roads, facilities, everything. And
now they're either deserting or they're becoming part of them.
Yep, and all the weapons we're using to supply the rebels and the Kurds are now in their hands too. So
it's not a good situation. It's a terrible. All right, let's talk a little bit about weapons. Barack Obama, you know, today went to Camden, New Jersey, which is one of the hellholes crime-wise of the country, and touted improvements and community policing and all that. I mean, I'd still like to see him send a relative down the streets of Camden, and if he thinks they've made such progress. But he used that backdrop to announce that no longer will police forces be able to get military equipment from the Pentagon. I mean, and this is hard. This is heavy-duty hardware. Yeah. I mean, you know, that the average person can't get, and that the military, you know, had and doesn't need, so they give it to they sell it to the police forces. But when you see a situation like went on in Baltimore or Ferguson, I mean, where the alternative is just let them riot and let them, or let police officers get killed or hurt. I don't have a problem with them having that hardware. Do you?
I don't. And people always scream it's the militarization of our police force. Well, as weapons become more advanced, available to the public, like assault rifles, and you can buy body armor and helmets and things like that, you need to have a police force that morphs with that. I mean, and also this comes down to an armed citizenry. I mean, like the Second Amendment says, we were, you know, for well-regulated militia. The issue is, you look at Plano, Texas, gun capital of the world, 0.04 murders per 100,000.
Right.
Okay, you look at Detroit, it's 59.
Well, that's the myth, you know, that senators like Chuck Schumer will go around saying, because they live in the Northeast, and they'll say, well, if you let people carry guns, you'll have the wild, wild West. They'll go into bars or shoot each other over parking spots. But where people are armed and have a right to carry, that doesn't happen.
I carry a gun everywhere. I've never shot anyone in public.
There you go. I mean,
not in this country.
And then you wouldn't. But he's implying that people would get drunk, they'd have fights. But that doesn't happen. The statistics don't bear that out.
Back in the day, kids used to carry their rifles to school.
Yeah, on their horse, put on the horse, on the side of the horse.
less gun violence then.
Let me ask you one more about you know, it was Hillary. Let me ask you a question that I hypothetically asked. There, we only have 30 seconds. Should we have gotten rid of Gaddafi in Libya?
Again, power vacuum.
Yeah.
You're going to trade one for a potential worse or a potential better. It's a toss-up.
So this might be a question that if she ever does talk to the press again, and it's been almost 30 days now since she announced and answered a question from the press, she might have to answer.
I'm also not running for president.
There you go. So. Great seeing you. All right. Thank you very much. Always good to see you, my friend. And we'll be back, folks. But first, we're bringing back our viewer call-in segment here on the Steve Malzberg Show. So if you want to weigh in on... Look how many issues we talk about every day, and there's always something at the top of the news. Feel free. You can. But first, you have to be proactive and address us right here by email and include a way we could reach you, a phone number during the day that we could get you at to try to set this whole thing up. So what you do is send an email to callsteve@newsmax.com. Call Steve at newsmax.com and put your contact info on, and we could hopefully set it up. Ari Fleischer is next. Don't go away.